What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ review. Again, we're doing those end of year videos. Thought I would get on here. I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a big documentary fan. I'm a big history fan. For those who don't know, one of my degrees is in American history, and big fan of watching documentaries. I get a lot out of them. So I thought I'd get on here and give my quick ranking of my top 10 documentaries of 2025. And we're just going to blow through these real quick. I'm not going to talk about each one of them in depth, just a real quick conversation about all 10. So number 10 is AKA Charlie Sheen. As someone who grew up watching Young Guns, grew up watching, in the Charlie Sheen era, Red Dawn, you know, his movies are blanking on me right now, but I grew up watching a lot of Charlie Sheen stuff, Two and a Half Men, and, I was there watching when he had his colossal downfall, spiral into drugs. So this movie did a lot to really kind of clarify from his own voice his side of the story, and I thought it was pretty well done. Number 9 is the Oklahoma City bombing, American Terror. I was in high school when the Oklahoma City bombing happened. I haven't really thought about it a lot, in the past 10 years or so. And this movie really just kind of brought up a lot of the feelings that you had when that happened. It was a scary time. It was a terrible thing that happened. And again, a lot has happened in the world since then, so I haven't given it a bunch of thought. And this kind of really reminded me just how significant this bombing was. That's number 9. Number 8 is kind of silly, but the Tom Green documentary. Again, I was in high school during the Tom Green era, and kind of seeing what he's doing with his life right now on the, bought the ranch and is just kind of living the farm life, reflecting on his career. I liked it. I thought it was pretty well done. So that's my number 8. Number 7 is one that really disturbed me. I watched it with my wife and she was equally disturbed. And that is Unknown Number High School Catfish, a documentary about the worst mom in the history of the world. That's a little tongue-in-cheek, but not too much. I mean, this was a terrible mom who cyberbullied her own daughter, and just a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And the documentary did a great job of telling the story that I'd only really heard about in a couple news articles here and there. And just whenever you feel bad about, maybe I'm not the best parent in the world, you just pop in Unknown Number High School Catfish and you feel much better about the job you're doing. So that's number 6 is Elway. Elway, John Elway is a football player that, I watched a lot when I was young. I was in high school when he finally won his Super Bowl, and hearing him reflect on his career at the age he is now, and not just that, but reflect on being a good father and a good grandfather. It was a very well done documentary that did a good job of telling the story of his life. Number 5 is Implosion, the Titan sub disaster. Again, a recent news story that was really interesting, that you kind of only read about in some articles and maybe watched some quick news stories about. And to see a full documentary kind of uncover the pompousness of this guy and how it was all kind of always going to go wrong, was very informative, and definitely sad to know that some innocent people were taken in this, and just the story behind all that. It was well done. Number 4 is Being Eddie. This was a fantastic documentary about the life of Eddie Murphy and the career of Eddie Murphy, and him telling his own story. And, that's one of the nice things about making these documentaries about a person while they're still alive and still well, is that they get to tell their own story. And that was what I really liked about Being Eddie, was he was in it telling his own story and reflecting on his own career. And, again, as someone who grew up with Eddie Murphy, seeing him reflect on his own career and his roles, Beverly Hills Cop and all the other Coming to America, all the other roles that he's had, it was a lot of fun to watch. Number 3 is Kevin Costner Presents The First Christmas. I know this one's a little different. But as you know, I am a Christian, and as somebody who loves Christmas, loves the story of the birth of Jesus, I told my wife, I think this is the best telling of the birth of Jesus ever, because not only does it not only is it inspired from scripture, but they refer to, certain archaeological findings. They refer to Jewish customs and Roman customs, and they do a really good job of just painting, what the world would have been like at the time. And what is, scripture is very vague, and we've kind of added our own stories to it. An example would be, we always say that in our storytelling, we talk about how people might have been rude, turning them away at the end. Well, it probably wasn't rudeness. It was probably Joseph's family. The house was full, and she was giving birth, so they had to put her somewhere, according to Jewish custom, where she would give birth, where she's only being attended to by women. Joseph wasn't even allowed to touch her until after the birth was over. So it did a real good job of bringing in ancient Jewish customs to really paint a picture of, what would have actually happened. So I loved it. I thought it was great. Number two is John Candy, I Like Me. Man, if you want to talk about a documentary about a person that makes you feel, this one did that. It made me feel, and it made me feel how sad it is that he was taken so early, and that, he could still be making movies right now. What would John Candy be like making movies right now? This was a wonderful documentary that really did a great job of bringing him to life in a way that I had never seen before. I grew up watching John Candy's movies, and that was really the John Candy that I knew. And this documentary did such a good job of telling the story of who he actually was. So it really stuck with me. But number one, no surprise to anybody who knows me, and it's Jaws at 50. This was such a good documentary that did a good job of explaining the cultural impact of the movie Jaws, which happens to be my favorite movie of all time. Honestly, there wasn't a lot in this that was new information, because I have done so many deep dives on this movie and I know so much about it. But approaching it from the cultural impact, it was just a fresh way of looking at my favorite movie of all time. So those are my top 10 documentaries of the year. What were your favorite documentaries? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there commenting, make sure that you subscribe to my channel, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.